When two fighters have a history like Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira, so much drama can end up happening. And something that occurred at the end of UFC 287, which might have confused a lot of fans, was Adesanya walking over to the edge of the cage and then falling down and playing dead. And then he springs back up. And in that moment I was going, who's he pointing at? What's he doing that for? Now I have an answer for you, and it's gonna shock a lot of people. He was actually pointing to Alex Pereira's kids. So as I mentioned in the introduction, there's a lot of drama that ends up happening, and post UFC 287, my dad was actually watching the fight and he came in and he's like, oh, Adesanya, he's got a little bit of an ego. I don't really like the dude. You know, he shoots the bow off at Pereira, who's unconscious, then he falls down and plays dead. And I said, well, you know what, Dad? There's a bit of a backstory there which might change your mind on the way we perceive Adesanya just kind of playing dead. You're going, what's the reason for that? Who's he taunting? So here's the story. Adesanya, as most of you guys know, fought Pereira 3 times. On their second fight, he went to Brazil for a kickboxing rematch and he got knocked out. He was winning the fight, as most of us know. He had given Pereira an 8 count, but then he gets knocked out. During the judge's decision, where Adesanya is having to stand there and go, man, I lost, and not get his hand raised, Alex Pereira's son comes up beside him and falls down and plays dead right beside Adesanya. And that just seems classless. Now I know the kid is probably like 6 years old and you know, it's hard to blame a child, but still.
So the first time he knocked me out in Brazil, his son came into the ring and then started to just lie dead next to me.
First of all, why is the child in the ring? Why is he being allowed to do this? Why does nobody grab him and go, oh, okay, this is not appropriate, taunting a man who just got knocked out? And in the post-fight press conference at UFC 287, somebody asks Adesanya about that. He just goes, you know what? I'm petty.
You sort of motioned someone in the crowd and took a little dive.
Oh no, I'm petty, bro.
Yeah, I took it personally. He called Pereira's son a little rat.
And I'm like, you fucking little ass. I'll whoop your ass if your dad don't do it for you.
Seems going a little bit too far.
Yeah, I looked for his kid and I pointed at him and I saw him and I was like, hey, hey, hey. Just to remind him.
But the whole point of this is there's so many things backstage that we don't realize happen as fans, and I can vouch for this because I've been backstage so many times and seen all this drama between other fighters or between other people and myself. Usually I'm pretty conflict free, but occasionally there's still little things that happen and people just don't understand all the backstory to these fights. It's almost like they need a camera crew back there following each fighter all the time, and you need an internal dialogue happening so you know really the emotions that are being displayed and why they're being displayed in that way. But when I was watching the main event just on Saturday, I went, that's weird. Why did Adesanya do that? Why would he fall dead? Who was he pointing at? Well, now you have the full story. He's pointing at Pereira's kids. Still a little bit harsh because we see these guys in the crowd and they're crying because their dad just got knocked out. It's still a little bit harsh in my mind, but overall it does justify it a little bit more to me because you don't need to do that even as a child to a fighter who just got knocked out. Anyway, I wanted to share that story with you. I think it'll make everything much more interesting if we happen to see Adesanya versus Pereira number 3 in UFC and number 5 overall. Yes, this is a lot of fights between them, but I feel like there's a little bit more that still needs to happen to really decide who is the best. First 3 fights were all very close. Pereira won 2 of them by knockout, and then this week Izzy put a stamp like, yes, I'm not going to be defeated by this guy all the time. I got 1 win, but I'd like to see him get another. What do you guys think? Is a rematch in order? And do you feel a little bit better now knowing the backstory about Adesanya falling and pointing to Pereira's kids? Do you feel it's appropriate or not appropriate? Anyway, let's call it there, guys.